So I've been a realtor for 4 years, and this year I opened up my own brokerage. So right now I'm like a one-woman show, and I decided to join the chamber, the Austin Chamber of Commerce. One, because I wanted to be more involved with the community to build some better relationships, but also I really wanted to get the inside scoop on what is going on in Austin. So we know about all the growth that's happening. I want to find out, like, what is the economy like? What are we projecting for growth? And what are some big projects that are coming out? What are some threats to our way of life and to our quality of life here? I want this obviously for my peace of mind because I'm a resident here, but I also want to help you as you're doing your research to figure out, is Austin the best place for you to live? What's projected for growth in the future? Like, we know it's hot right now, but is there a bubble? Is it going to burst? What kind of industry and economy is coming to Austin? So last week I got to go to this really cool event called the Economic Outlook. Austin Chamber puts it on every year, and we get to hear from some experts about what the future of the Texas and the Austin economy looks like as it relates to the state, the country, and the world as a whole. So in this video, I'm going to share with you some of my big takeaways and the insights that I got from that lunch from the Austin Chamber. First, let me introduce myself. I'm Tiffany Moore. I'm a local realtor and broker right here in Austin, Texas. I put out videos every week showcasing what it's like to live here, what the cost of living is, what the developments are that's going on. So if you want to stay on top of what's happening in Austin, make sure you subscribe. And if you're thinking about moving out here and it feels right to you, my contact info is below. Go ahead and reach out to me. I would love to help you kind of figure out what moving to Austin would look like for you and your family. Okay, so first, there is a lot of information in here, and I want to make sure that I get it correctly. So if you see me like looking down like this, I'm reading my screen so I can make sure that I'm giving you the information that is accurate, and I'm just not making it up off the top of my head. So first, at the lunch, we heard from Dr. Mark Dotzer. He is a former chief economist of real estate at the Texas A&M University, and he was in that position for 18 years. So he is kind of the authority on the matter in Texas. He is not afraid to tell it like it is. He's a straight shooter. He's very opinionated. So whether you like it or not, you're going to get everything that he thinks about a subject. So this is what he said about the U.S. economy, how that trickles to Texas, and then specifically what's in store for Austin. This isn't everything that he said, but these are the highlights that I took away from his talk. First, he recognized that we have a major labor issue in the US. So we have a huge labor shortage. And we know this if you've been to like a retail store, or a restaurant, or a hotel anytime recently, you know that there's like significant labor issues. His perspective is that one of the major reasons for this is because of our poor immigration policy. So if anyone in the White House is interested in resolving this labor issue, we have to have an immigration policy that goes hand in hand with it. Somewhere in between, open borders and as crazy as everything is right now. So he did say that because this is going to be like an overhead major policy issue for the US, that unfortunately this labor shortage is going to be drawn out for a long time. We heard from someone else who has a different perspective on the labor issue. So I'm going to talk about that at the end, but just wanted to keep that in mind. He said that China's days as a global economic leader are over, that jobs are flowing away from China and that they're flowing back to the US. And there is a handful of states where a lot of jobs and people are going to be moving to in the US, and Texas happens to be one of them. So we talked a lot about China being the biggest one, the biggest economic leader that's kind of backing off of that position, but also a lot of the jobs that we've been outsourcing to China, to India, and to Mexico, those are all coming back to the US as well. So for Texas specifically, he mentioned that whatever trends, the trends that we've been seeing for population in Texas for the last 20 years, they're going to be even bigger in the next 20 years. So there are places that are just not very much fun to people to live anymore, and that's why these people are moving to Texas. We had a really long discussion about inflation. So I'm going to kind of break it down and give you some of the high points. So we said in the US, the net worth has increased by about $40 trillion in the past 24 months. So people owning stocks, bonds, and real estates, they all saw their wealth increase. But people who don't own any of those assets, they did not see this increase in wealth. So the money in checking accounts has 4x'd in the past 2 years. And we know that when Americans have money, they spend it. And that's what we have been seeing in the economy, is just so much spending going on, which is why interest rates have gone up to kind of try and reduce that. So he said people have too much money in their checking accounts and they are going to keep spending, and it is going to take layoffs to dwindle those accounts down. This was kind of a red flag to me. He didn't really expand on this a lot as far as like layoffs in a specific sector or how long that's going to continue, but it sounds like the biggest contribution to inflation is just too much spending, too much money in the checking accounts. So they're raising interest rates to make it harder for people to borrow. So they have to use the cash in their checking accounts instead. And those accounts will eventually be depleted and slow spending down. So honestly, this sounds horrible. Like this sounds like a really big doom and gloom of like, well, guess people are just going to have to lose their jobs so that they spend the money that's in their checking account. This was not really good news for me. I have to say that for the rest of this meeting, or the rest of the information that was shared, I kind of got a little pick-me-up as far as what's in store for the future of Texas regarding the economy. Are we heading into a recession? How bad is it going to be? But this little statement specifically kind of freaked me out. He didn't really expand on it, so I was just like, oh, wait. The only way to fix this is for layoffs to come? Okay. You care to talk a little bit more about that? But apparently he did not. So going back to the US in general, he said productivity is starting to decline. Only a third of employees are engaged at work, and this is inflationary. So when you have a high overhead of employees, but they are not engaged in producing, companies then have to raise their prices to get the profits that they want because their expenses are too high. All right, now we talked about Texas. So Dr. Dotzer gave his theory on where people move, and he called it SPA investing, S-P-A investing. So the S is for safety. There has to be safety for current residents. P, it has to have a positive urban vibe. And A, a positive local attitude for employers. So cities that have these major factors are the ones that people and jobs are going to be moving to. So there are 5 states that kind of have these qualities that people are going to be moving to. Texas is one, also Arizona, Florida, Colorado, and North Carolina. So according to the National Retail Federation, people and jobs are moving out of cities like New York, the Bay Area, Chicago, and Seattle. These are cities that have a negative urban vibe, and when that happens, it can take 10 plus years to recover. And this is why people will keep moving to Texas, to Austin, to Dallas, and to San Antonio. So considering these projections and these estimates, Austin was projected to have a population of 3 million by the year 2030. But because of these changes that are going on with the global economy and with the global industry, with jobs in China coming back to the US, and then with jobs in the US coming to those 5 main states, that the projection for Austin's population to be 3 million by 2030 is probably going to be a much higher number than that, much higher than 3 million. So just for perspective, Austin is just under 1 million right now. So they're projecting the population to more than triple in the next 8 years. So next we heard from Texas Comptroller Glenn Hagar. So in the time that Glenn has been the Comptroller of Texas, Texas has gone from the 12th largest economy in the world to the 9th largest economy as far as GDP goes. And if everything goes the way that it has been over the past few years, it's probably going to be the 8th largest economy in the next few years. He said that over 1,000 people are moving to Texas every day, and statistics tell us that just about 185 people of those are moving to Austin. Other states don't have this. States like New York and California, they don't have the same amount of people moving to their state every day. So in the last 18 months in Texas, the unbelievable economy outperformed expectations. Our reserves went from $14 billion to $27 billion. Texas had a 25% increase in tax revenue from 2020 to 2021, which is huge. Like sometimes, he said, if anything, sometimes our tax revenue may increase by double digits, by like 10% or 13%. But the fact that it increased by 25% from 2020 to 2021 is just astronomical. And he is projecting to see an even bigger increase when he reports the numbers in January of 2023. So that means that the next legislative session, we're going to have a lot of opportunity to do some big things and take some really big initiatives that are going to make life better for Texans. So some of the things that he mentioned specifically that we need to consider are high-speed internet. So there's 30 million residents in Texas. About 7 million do not have access to high-speed internet, and they actually want it. So this isn't just about like watching cat videos on YouTube. When people have access to high-speed internet, they can work, they can go to school, they can see their doctor. Like, it's really essential to life to have high-speed internet. And so if we can get it to some of these rural communities that want it, that would make life better for so many people in Texas. Another factor that he talked about was water infrastructure. So with all the people moving here, this is definitely going to be a sticking point. And I get this question somewhat frequently from folks that are moving out here is Texas going to dry up, or what are y'all going to do about the water? And I don't really have an answer, because we kind of have some water issues right now in Leander. Sometimes my friend lives in Leander and she's like, oh, we're under a boil notice. Like, what happened? We didn't even have a storm. Like, that's happening right now, and we don't have 3 million people living in the Austin area. Also, they're building like Leander Springs and all these other communities that are going to need water for irrigation, for their pools, for their plumbing. So the water is definitely going to be an issue, and water infrastructure is going to be a hot topic in this next legislative session. And the third factor is education. So we talked about that wage growth has lagged in the private sector. And the public school staffing is down 3 to 4% for K through 12. So we have a really big opportunity to improve our public schools. So Glenn also said that right now, a lot of municipalities and states have a surplus due to record tax collection. We mentioned that 25% increase from 2020 to 2021 just for Texas. And these entities are ready for a recession, and they also have borrowing capacity. So debt issuance is down 7% year over year in Texas. Money is not flowing from this surplus yet, but it's going to be a long process. Like, it may take 10 to 12 years to see this money kind of trickle down into the community. He said in the past couple years, Austin has had several once-in-a-lifetime deals. So we have kind of an unofficial Apple headquarter 2 that's literally like right across the street from my house. We have Tesla, who built their huge gigafactory and did all their deals pretty much virtually during COVID. And we have Samsung, who is building their mega plant out in Taylor, which is going to help I was talking to my friend who works for Samsung, like, please explain to me what exactly is going on at the big factory. And you may know this already, but I'm just going to like super dumb it down. We're making really cool chips. Like, we're making really advanced chips that are going to be used for like all electronics. So like everything connecting, like your Bluetooth and your phone and your microwave and your oven. Like, Samsung is making these crazy advanced chips to go into all these electronics. So, and I think Tesla is going to be a big partner with that. Tesla uses a lot of the chips, so it was important for them to be in close proximity as far as like shipping and logistics and things like that. We have a lot of big deals going on, and Glenn said that the deals that we're currently seeing are mega deal. He called them mega deals in terms of flow and the size of the projects that we're working with. So we also talked about a recession. Glenn said we're going to be in a mild recession in Texas. He said Texas will outperform the national average in other states. We will be impacted, but not very deep and not very wide in Texas. He mentioned that builders are seeing a slowdown. They're having about 50% less business right now. And there were a lot of questions and comments about interest rates specifically. So someone questioned, and okay, I'm going to say this. During this part of the meeting, there was like Glenn was talking, and then there was a panel, and my notes didn't really specify like who said what. So at this part, I think we're talking a little bit more about the panel when we talk about interest rates and jobs and things like that. So it's a panel of Glenn, Dr. Dotzer, and a few other people that were up there. So a question came up about like, it seems like the change in interest rates are punitive, especially to the real estate industry. And they confirmed, they're like, yes, it is punitive to the real estate industry. Real estate is going to feel these effects first, but they're also going to be the first to come back from it. So we're kind of like we're like the canary in the coal mine of like, stuff is coming. I'm seeing it. And like, I'm seeing it in my business. Builders are seeing it, developers are seeing it. Like, it's definitely hitting real estate now, but hopefully it's hitting us early and then we'll come out of it early. That's their projection. There's a question about how business owners need to manage their business over the next few years, and it's pretty common sense stuff that you would think about. One, it's not a good time to have a high level of debt. You've got to plan for your revenue to be lower, for your rents to be lower per unit, and for you to have higher vacancies if you are a landlord or a property manager, things like that. And also plan for higher costs. So it's kind of a good idea to just tighten the belt, keep everything straight right now, do what you need to do as far as getting the business in and the marketing, but maybe taking on debt to build and to do those other things. Like, I'm not a business strategist, but it may be a good idea to just be cautious until we can kind of see how things are going to hit us that hard, and especially in Texas. Okay, so we also talked about jobs. We mentioned that there is a global movement away from China with jobs and wealth moving back to the US. And these jobs are going to be moving to the 5 states that we mentioned: Texas, Arizona, Florida, Colorado, and North Carolina. Jobs that moved to China, Mexico, and India over the last 20 years, they're all coming back. So when businesses think about bringing their jobs here to Texas, these are kind of the factors that they're considering. One is talent, the cost of getting talent. So how much does talent actually cost for the salary and the acquisition cost of talent? And then are we relocating people, things like that. 2, affordability. So we talk about like one of the reasons that people are coming to Texas and Austin is because it's so much more affordable when you compare it to California, New York, or Seattle. But that's one factor, but it's not the main factor. Other affordability factors are supply chain, labor, interest rates, things like that. Housing. So we're kind of in a cooling off period right now with an increase of days on the market. So houses are taking longer to sell in Texas, in Austin, pretty much everywhere right now. And we're going to have, so that means we have a higher stock of housing, which is kind of going to depress the prices a little bit. So the opposite problem that we had last year was supply and demand. Now we have a high supply and a lower demand. So we all know what happens to prices when that is the case. So hopefully that'll make prices a little bit lower. That'll help people afford them a little bit better. In light of the fact that interest rates are so high that it's really had to make people change the price ranges that they're looking into. So going back to the labor shortage, remember when I said in the beginning that Dr. Dotzer said that, we do have a labor shortage and most of it was due to the immigration policies that we have right now. And because of that, the shortage is going to continue for a while. We heard from someone else. So the moderator of the lunch today is the founder and CEO of Community Impact, which is a local community newspaper. They have one for Austin. It's not just one for Austin. It's like my specific neighborhood has one. And there's one for like downtown, and there's one for Cedar Park in those areas. They have them in Houston, and I think in Dallas, and a few other areas throughout Texas. So he had a different perspective on the labor market that I'm a little bit more aligned with. This is what he said. He said employees are looking for fulfillment. They're not looking for engagement. Employees are looking for purpose. So in the next 20 years, the labor market is going to be tight. What are you going to do to keep your employees and to hire the high talent? So the days of going to work and just like keeping your head down and making as many widgets as possible and be engaged in your production, that is not enough for employees anymore. It's just not. And when you think about it, like employees are humans. And we have hopes and dreams, so we want to contribute and we want to be valuable and we want to be appreciated. It's hard to be appreciated or to feel like it's valid when you're like, I made 20 widgets today. And it's like, that's so awesome. Your contribution is really making a difference. Like people really have to feel that they are making a difference and are contributing. So there are a lot of things that businesses can do to hire, keep, and promote the right people. One of the first things is just like seeing their humanity and treating them like they actually matter. Employees I talked to so many people who are moving here, especially millennials, who are talking about like doing something that not just that they're good at or that they can get a raise for, but something where they feel like they are helping others. So people don't want to be a cog in a machine anymore. They want to really be valued for the skills that they have and the perspective that they have and their experiences and the way that they say things and do things. Like they want to feel that their uniqueness is what is helping move things forward. So whether you're looking for someone to like scoop ice cream for you or double your sales or improve your customer experience, that person that you're working with, like they have their own hopes and dreams and passions and plans. And how are you going to recognize and feed into those things that will play a really big role to the results that you're looking for as well? Like this really can be a win-win if we think about it differently than like employees must be engaged. It's like, well, give them a reason to be other than you get to keep your job. Like it's just not enough for people anymore. So this economic outlook lunch was really enlightening, and it actually made me feel better about the economy and about what's going to happen in Texas when we do hit a recession. Because you've probably been the same way. Everything I've been hearing has been like, just doom and gloom and things are coming, hold on to your butts for the next couple years. Like that may be for some places and maybe for some businesses and industries, but I kind of feel a little bit better knowing that I'm in Texas and that I'm in Austin, and it might not hit us as hard as it is for everyone else. So if any questions, please put them in the comments below. And if you are looking at moving out here, you feel like it's right, reach out to me. All my contact info is in the description. I'll talk to you soon.